Hello there and welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash and I'm your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today is a bit of an update video because I want to tell you about my journey towards my Holy Grail, and in fact it's something which is more difficult to track down than the Holy Grail, and that is to buy a new Rolex professional model watch from an authorised dealer at recommended price. So let me tell you how it's gone. Well, first an update. So, you may not have seen all of my previous ones. So in March of this year, 2021, Rolex brought out an update to their catalogue. And one of the watches which they'd altered in its offering was the Rolex Explorer 1. So they're sort of entry level into the professional range of tool watches. Now the Explorer 1, up to this year, had been produced in a 39mm diameter dial, which was a new addition because previously in its earlier iterations it had always been 36mm. So they changed to 39mm for a number of years, and then this year they dropped back down to its original size of 36mm. Now I'm a fan of those traditional size watches because I've only got a small physique, I'm not a big hulking guy, so I don't like massive wrist watches. And that 36mm is the sweet spot for me. I own a 36mm Datejust, and it is absolutely such a classic size. Works perfectly with sort of more formal clothing because it slips nicely under the cuff of one sleeve. So in April, as quick as I could, after the watches had been released, I made my way along to a number of Rolex authorised dealers near where I live. I'm fortunate to live within close proximity to at least 4, 3 of which I previously bought Rolex watches from before. So I've got a relationship with those authorised dealers. I went along and I expressed my interest. And in a previous video, I explained the experience that I went through, at each of those authorised dealers. One is from a national chain, one is a small chain of just a few local jewellers, and one was just a one-off independent jewellery store, family owned. So all totally different experiences, and I've explained that in a previous video. I'll put a link to that down below if you want to go and see that one. But we're here today to talk about my update since that last video. Okay, so let's get to the elephant in the room, and I have to tell you, this is just a mere prop to get you interested. I have not yet got my Rolex Explorer 1, and there's no sign of it coming on the horizon. And I'm filming this at the very beginning of October, or the end of September, early October 2021. So a full, it's been from April to October, no sign of a watch. Now I'm on the waiting list now, or expressed an interest, I should say, to be more accurate, at 3 Rolex dealers, all of whom I've spent money before, and I've bought Rolex watches at all of those authorised dealers. So, we're in the best possible position we can be, but nothing yet, no sign of it. I've dropped into several of those authorised dealers since I placed my initial offer of interest, and I have to say, no sign of anything coming, no acknowledgement that there's any throughput of these watches. Things are not looking good out there in the world if you want to buy a Rolex. I have to say the world's opened up, the pandemic is sort of petering out a little here in the UK, and my professional life and my personal life means I'm travelling a lot more than I have done for a long time. And I've taken that opportunity to drop into other authorised dealers, not to express interest, but to get a broader picture of the Rolex buyer's world, because it's a very strange place out there. And I've probably been to about 6 or 7 authorised dealers from the top of the country, further south as well, on my summer holidays and on my travels professionally, and it's a very strange place out there, I've got to say. Now, over the last couple of months, I've found myself sat in authorised dealers, having walked up to the store. There's nothing on display in the window, in the Rolex display. You literally see just 1 or 2 relatively undesirable two-tone Datejust models, nothing else generally. I'll go in, I'll have a chat with the sales agent to just try and get some intelligence really about what's going on in the Rolex world. To benefit me, because I want to know, how long am I going to be waiting for this Explorer 1? And secondly, just out of passing interest, because I'm interested in the watch industry. And on most occasions, bizarrely, I've found myself sat in a jewellery store talking to a sales agent, and in that place, in those stores, the shelves are absolutely groaning with Swiss wristwatches. You've got your Tudors, all of them on display. Buy them there right now. Omega, anything you like, it's on display. Then you've got your sort of, your second tier watches, your Oris, your Longines, all of these other brands, good quality, Tissot even, Tissot or Tissot, however you'd like to say it. They're all on the shelves. You can pick anything out of the range you like, but you're sat in a room where there is almost nothing in the Rolex displays. Now, I know this has been around for a while, but I've been going into Rolex dealers for about 4 years with regularity and getting a broader picture of it. And the truth is, they always had some watches on display. They would have the date justs there, the stainless steel date justs. I know it's been a while, but a couple of years ago, you'd bump into an Air King, you'd bump into an Explorer 1 occasionally in some stores, or even precious metal professional watches. So you'd find the odd all gold Submariner, or you'd find the all gold GMT, a Smurf or something like that. These days you don't see anything, you don't see anything. And right now, the other day, just literally this week, I was in a substantial national chain, authorised dealer, and the shelves were bare. There was nothing, barring one or two two-tone 36mm date justs or lady date justs. That was it. So very, very strange situation. Now, I've been in a few of these stores chatting to people, and the sales agents, by and large, they're all really positive. I've got to say, I've probably been into 7 authorised dealers around the country in the last 6 weeks. And not a one of them have been anything less than very polite. They've entertained my conversation. Not once has somebody said to me, would you be interested in something else in the store, sir? Because I've said, I'm interested in an Explorer 1. I've always been wearing a wristwatch from Rolex at the time when I asked these questions, just so that they know I am serious and I'm not a time waster. So to be fair, it must be disheartening for these sales agents, because when you walk in and you ask for a Rolex, they know full well there's not going to be a sale. They're not going to make any commission. They're not selling any pieces that day. But they've all been really polite, and I've been in a range of, large national chains and small independent stores. Now, I was in an independent store just the other day, and it's a fascinating insight into the Rolex world, really, this is. Independent, family-owned jewellery store, not that far away, about 15 miles from where I live. It's not a store that I've ever bought a watch. I'm not going to name them because that would be inappropriate. But I was sat in there, I walked in, and I said to the sales agent, I'm interested in buying an Explorer 1. What can you do for me? We had the conversation. She explained it's a desirable watch. You can't just walk in and buy them. You have to accept that there's back and forth. They don't know you. They're telling you the whole story. They're explaining it to you. I'm happy to listen to it because I love wristwatches. But she says, yep, we'll put you on the list. And off she went somewhere else to get... They had a binder in which they obviously took people's names. Whether or not that goes to anything, I couldn't tell you. Perhaps they're just placating you because you're a potential customer and they don't want to tell you they're not going to source that watch for you. But they went to the time and trouble of going to get this binder. And while she was away getting the binder, I was sat there sort of idling the time away, looking around this relatively small store. And another chap came in behind me, and he was sat at a table just about, I don't know, 6 or 8 feet away. So clearly within earshot, and I couldn't help but listen to the conversation that he was having with the sales agent. And he says to the young lady, I'm interested in buying a platinum Daytona. Now my ears pricked up when I heard this, platinum Daytona. This is like, towards the top end of Rolex's offering to the world. It's a really expensive watch, an £80,000 watch, which routinely sells for 100,000 plus on the grey market. So I start, paying attention to the conversation. I managed to, get a look at this guy, and he's wearing what appears to be a stainless steel Daytona. So he's obviously a serious watch guy. He's wearing one of the most desirable watches in the world, and he's asking for an almost 6-figure watch, which is incredibly desirable. So he chats to the agent, and he says, I'd like to get on the list for a Platinum Daytona. And the girl ums and ahs, and she says, look, the reality is, Mr. X, I can't put your name on the list. And he says, well, why ever not? I'm a really solid customer. The time is right for me. I want to get on the list. I know it's not going to be an immediate thing by any means, but let's put me on the list, and I'm ready when the watch comes into stock. So she says, look, I'm sorry, Mr. X, but the truth is, all right, we probably get one Platinum Daytona into this store every 1 or 2 years, she said. And I will be honest with you, we have 6 people on our list who've expressed an interest for that Platinum Daytona already. They're all solid customers. They've all got, equal validity to buy that watch. So to be truthful, if I was to put you on the list, we will be waiting an infinite period of time. You won't get the watch because there's more likelihood of the watch being discontinued by the time you, in fairness, come to the top of that list. Because that's a hugely desirable watch. The Platinum Daytona, as I said, it's the sort of 50th anniversary Rolex Daytona watch. It is absolutely beautiful, platinum construction, but with a fantastically attractive ice blue dial with a chestnut ceramic bezel, and it is an outstanding piece. It's the piece of fantasies and dreams for many people. But here's a man who's got the money to buy it, yet she didn't put his name on the list. Here's a man prepared to spend £80,000 plus in a store, previously bought watches there, and she refused to take his expression of interest. Now that should say to you, just what a situation that we're in the Rolex buying world. It's not going to happen. It's got to be an element. The stars have got to line up for you to get a really desirable Rolex professional range watch at the moment. Now another interesting development which I think is worth mentioning, and I've seen it on a few Rolex forums on Facebook as well, but I've seen it physically twice with my own eyes in 2 stores which were hundreds of miles apart. So I popped into an authorised dealer locally to where I live, place I've bought watches before, and as I was walking past the store, I looked in the window and my eye was attracted to the fact that there was more on display than I've seen for a long time. So I approached the window, I looked in the window to see a Submariner, I see a 2-tone GMT Master 2 root beer, I see a Sea Dweller, and I see a Yacht Master on display. And all of a sudden your heart starts quickening and you think, my God, they've had a delivery, they've just put it in the window, is this, has fate smiled on me? And then you look a little closer and there's no prices displayed under the watches, and then you see the small little sign which dashes your hopes and dreams, and it says, for exhibition only. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. Now a few days later, I was in another part of the country, in the north of England, 250 miles away on business, walking past an authorised dealer from a national chain, and I looks in the window and I see almost exactly the same collection of watches. There's a root beer, I think there was a Submariner, a Yacht Master, and a 2-tone Sea Dweller, and a couple of other pieces as well on the periphery. There's a 41mm Datejust in stainless steel with a blue face, and I think there's a Wimbledon dial Datejust as well, 41mm. The most desirable watches in the Rolex range. And I thought, wow, been caught once before. I looks around and sure enough, there's the sign, for exhibition only. So I goes in and I have a conversation with the sales agent, posing as, a potential buyer. And I says, I see you've got some Rolex pieces in the window. And she said, oh yeah, that's, she said, it's literally because we've got nothing in stock, and I'm sat with her in front of the Rolex displays and there is not a watch on display in that store. Nothing at all. And she says, yeah, Rolex have sent those along. They're extra watches, which are for display only, so that people can see them in the window. You're not looking in a blank window. You can see that there are Rolex watches. You can see the watch that you might want to buy, even though you can't buy it, of course, but you can get your hands on it. You can try it on. You can see if it's a watch which you would like to go for, because it's one of the issues you have today. You might desire a watch. I took wristwatch check. I'm wearing a Rolex GMT Master 2, the root beer in two-tone, ever rose gold, and perfect autumn watch for this time of year. Got the colours which match the fall season perfectly. I bought this watch sight unseen. I'd never seen it, I'd never tried it on. I ordered it in a store, it was delivered. The first time I clapped eyes on one of these watches was when I paid for it and it was being handed to me, which is a bizarre situation for a luxury item. So perhaps this is a new endeavour which the Rolex authorised dealers and perhaps Rolex themselves are entering into. Quite simply, there's something in the window. You can try them on, it keeps the interest going. And it might actually be, a cunning ploy, because when you go in to ask about the watch, you're already in the store. That's when they can say to you, well, I don't have any Rolexes, but have you thought about an Omega? Have you ever been interested in, a Tudor, perhaps? It gets you into the store. Of course, when there's nothing in the window, it just looks like the store is closing down, because there's never going to be anything in the Rolex stand. So an interesting, occurrence there. They're extra watches. My initial thought was that they were probably display pieces which didn't have a movement, just purely for aesthetic display. But according to the sales agent I spoke with, they were extra watches, suggesting they're functional watches which had been sent in addition to the store's allocation, which were for display only. So an interesting little development, that. So where is my watch journey right now? Well, to be honest, as I say, it's September, October in the UK. I'm no further forward than I was in April of this year when I expressed an opinion. And the truth is, I'm not expecting any change. If I've got my Explorer 1 by December, by Christmas, I will be amazed. I'm not expecting anything anytime soon. You look at the Explorers today, they're just over £5,000 retail. They're trading at £8,000 on the grey market. That's a substantial markup, which means that all of the the Rolex, fanboys and all the people who love these pieces, they're all throwing their hat in the ring, because why wouldn't you? There's 0% interest rate in the UK today. So if you buy a Rolex, you can get 40%, 50% return on your investment. There is nowhere else you can achieve that in the wider market today. So perhaps that's the route people are taking. And it kind of scuppers really interested watch aficionados like me. Because we're never going to get the watches that we want, because we don't have that buying potential in the authorised dealers, which means that we get up there to that privileged buyer status which you need to have. I'll take you back. Here I saw a guy prepared to spend 80k on a watch, and they refused to put him on the list. What chance do I have? What chance do any of us have? Interesting things to ponder on. Not positive, but it's worth being aware of reality. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this update. It's not a happy ending, but I'm sticking with it. You never know, something might turn up. So until the next time, take care of yourselves. Leave me any comments you'd like in the comment section below. I'd love to hear of your own experiences. And I will see you again very soon.